Welcome. So, over the last few years, artificial intelligence has been the topic of interest for many. And right now, as I speak, it's rising up into the focus of many who are interested in considering how the future of your planet might develop. Let's begin by saying that its potential for being of great benefit or of great harm is there. It can be either. To use simple examples, you can readily appreciate that the use of artificial intelligence, with its ability to analyze enormous amounts of data very quickly, could, for example, help a plane to fly along a more economical route because it's able to adjust to subtle shifts in wind, in temperature, in pressure, and so on, with far more skill than a human pilot is able to muster. At the same time, you'll be aware that in the recent past, more than one plane has crashed because the intelligence of the computations built into the programming of the plane were overriding the common sense of the pilots and bringing about devastating results. So these things are obvious. The answer then to the question of, is the development of artificial intelligence a benefit for humanity or harmful to humanity, really, of course, will depend upon you yourselves, how you choose to use it. And I'll come on to that, but let's talk a little bit about what artificial intelligence actually is. It's just ones and zeros. As computers operate at the moment, this will change, but at the moment, it is useful to come down to those basics. You're dealing all the while with binary choices. It's either a yes or it's a no. And for some people, their sense of how their minds work is that's how they work. That your mind computes, not as quickly as artificial intelligence, but in very much the same way, by working through a series of yes-no choices. I would suggest that that's not how your mind works at all. Though you can certainly abide by the illusion that that's how it works. But were your mind to work purely along the lines of a kind of chart in which there are a multitude of these yes-no choices, then I think you would find yourself in a sorry state, very much diminished as a consciousness. And so part of the issue, really, as we look at the subject of artificial intelligence, is the very considerable limits that there are at the moment in the standard scientific approach to the understanding of what consciousness is. I'll come on to that as well. But whilst we're staying with that binary choice functioning that currently computers use and that artificial intelligence uses, then whilst it has its limits, it can be extremely valuable. In the kind of example I gave. a simple, maybe a small saving, but a valuable saving for humanity at the moment. Creating the more economical, the more efficient flight path. So it can do these things, and it does these things by gathering lots and lots of data. Currently, there are two areas of concern that are being spoken of a lot. One is really around the gathering of data and the use of data, in the sense that potentially anyway, artificial intelligence can pry into your private lives, knowing more about your choices and wishes than you yourself know even. This is the way the fear goes. And that also it can make it increasingly difficult to tell truth from fantasy, truth from falsehood. That it can flood you with so much information, much of which can look very convincing, at least superficially, and perhaps even more deeply than superficially. And so there can be the sense that how can the poor citizen tell whether she or he is being told the truth? And how can she keep a degree of privacy that staves off a genuine fear of becoming a kind of cog in a wheel, a cog in a machine, I should say, a slave within the system, kind of Kafkaesque world in which your experience of yourself is increasingly diminished. That's one area of fear. And linked to it is the fear that the use of all these data can be applied to harmful purposes, directly harmful purposes, rather than incidentally harmful purposes. The data can be held on the whereabouts of every human being, and that small devices, cheaply produced, can then exercise control, or indeed even wipe out the life of any individual that someone who is operating that particular system selects. Again, you're into a kind of nightmare scenario, not unlike the slave state idea, but a little bit different because it contains more images of destruction. There is a countervailing view that says that much drudgery in the working lives of many people can be eliminated by the use of artificial intelligence. So again, this can be a kind of fantasy, this time a beneficial or a benign fantasy. A return to a Garden of Eden, we might say, whether instead of having to dig and weave a long day through, because you've been banished, because you ate of the fruit which was forbidden, there can be this idea that you can use that very fruit of knowledge to let a machine dig for you, a machine weave for you, and you can lie back in the lap of luxury. You can walk again in the Garden of Eden. So human consciousness has been carrying these kind of ideas around for a long time. On the one hand, heaven, on the other hand, hell. We might then say that what artificial intelligence is offering you is an outward revelation of the inward nightmares that you have held. In itself, there's nothing new. In art, these have been explored over and over through the centuries. But there is a real sense of it being presented to you, or potentially presented to you now, not simply as an image, a painting that you look at, a book that you read, a film that you watch, that it actually becomes your reality. Where do these visions come from? These fears and hopes? As human beings on planet Earth. You've elected to be on a planet which has its own history, and you yourselves as individual beings have your own history too. Part of your role as humanity, those of you who are thinking in these ways at this time, is to do what you can to help to lift your own consciousness, and in doing so the consciousness of humanity, so that you emerge from the detritus of the planet's past, your own past. And in doing so, you have deliberately taken on that past. You deliberately have allowed it to, as it were, cloud your energy field as individuals and collectively very much. It is as if, and I say as if, but there's a lot of direct truth in this as if as well. Collectively, you as humanity have sampled the troubles and tribulations of the galaxy, or at least a large portion of the galaxy, at a certain frequency or range of frequencies. It's not the totality of experience within the galaxy by a long chalk, but you have sampled a range of experiences from within a bandwidth of dimensions that include the kind of experiences that you meet in your nightmares, in your dreadful imaginings of how bad the world could be, your dystopias. But these dystopias are never unrelated to the utopias, the benign environments that you dream of, the Gardens of Eden. In this, then, we come back to that binary system that the computer uses, your noughts and your ones. We might, at random, say the zero is the oneness of heaven. The one becomes the one alone, the individual, the separate being, who must make his or her world through the universe in a world of struggle, trial, of tribulation, of uncertainty, and fear. And so all the while in these explorations that you are expressing outwardly in the development of artificial intelligence, you're exploring how do you make peace with your own past? How do you bring harmony to these troubled bandwidths that have had so much distortion, so much interference? Whether it has been your personal experience or not, as a human being, you carry within you memories of what it is to exist in a state of enslavement, to be an individual whose role is simply to work until you drop, used by others for their own ends. That's there within the human blueprint. But within your human blueprint you also carry the vision of heaven, the sense of harmony, of joy, of oneness. And all of this is just you giving yourselves an opportunity to make peace with this. To recognize that there is indeed a real temptation to live out the worst that you can imagine. In some ways it feels so much easier. Let us jump over the precipice and have done. That can be there, within most, if not all of you. Samson in the temple, who feels his strength has been drained from him, his might has gone. So he cries out for one last opportunity to bring everything down around him and on him, to go out with an explosion. As humans, you find it very hard to love yourselves because you carry these patterns within you that you can reflect upon, that you can look at, or you can ignore. But if you ignore, the pain creeps up behind you. The ignoring has led to a lot of this need to create an outward expression that you can witness and see. And that's why you're seeing the dark scenarios relating to artificial intelligence. This is enough people who felt that they need to show what is hidden so that humanity collectively can say, is this truly what we want? And as I say, the temptation is there. It can feel easier to just go downhill. Sometimes to come to know who and what you are, for all that you are beautiful beyond all measure, or indeed perhaps because you are beautiful beyond all measure. That can feel so hard. Because somehow or other, you have to make peace with all that pain that says, no, you're not beautiful. You're this mess. You're this terrible mistake. You're this disaster zone. So if you yourselves find yourselves in this binary bind, it's either good or it's bad, it's either yes or it's no. If there is no room for doubt, you are, to express this colloquially, you're stuffed. So it's not that you're needing to choose heaven over hell. It's not that. That's what it looks like. That's what it feels like. That's what it feels like the struggle is on earth. Are we going to let the good guys win, or are we going to let the bad guys win? Either way, you've got to fight. Well, don't. Relax into the awareness that you contain all evil and all good. It's all there in you, and it doesn't matter at all. You exist at the point of choice. Always at the point of choice. You always have choice. Doesn't matter what other people choose either. Let them choose what they choose. Honor your choice. Honor your ability to choose. And choose that which is joyful for you. So that can look like I'm reverting to this binary idea, You want to choose what's joyful, choose what's good. Sort of. But get away from the moralizing, get away from the judgment. There's a space between that yes and no, which is life. That's your aliveness. There are many people who feel that artificial intelligence is developing its own consciousness. This is only true in a particular kind of way. Everything that you know, everything that you encounter, a spoon, a teacup, all have consciousness. To some degree. May not be a great deal of consciousness, but there is consciousness. So long as there is some degree of order, there is consciousness. So if you look at the software that is creating artificial intelligence, has it got a consciousness? Yes, it has. But it's not the consciousness that it seems to be. It's not the clever reply that it can make to your question. It's not the joke it's learned how to make. That's all the functioning of machinery. That's not consciousness. Consciousness is you. You are conscious. You're way more conscious than the consciousness that is there within artificial intelligence. If it becomes conscious, then it is solely because, first of all, it has that basic consciousness that any ordered system has, but then because people have chosen to give their consciousness to it. So that's what happens if you go into a kind of slave state. You lose consciousness. You give it away. You become less and less able to choose. You give your choices to the machinery, and giving your choice to the machinery is you also giving your consciousness to the machinery. You can do that. It's not that it is a bad thing, as I'm saying, stay away from that notion of it's either bad or good. So you can give consciousness to the machine, but do know that that's what you're doing. Keep your life alive. So my suggestion is, yes, use artificial intelligence so long as it is enhancing life for you. It's useful to you. Now, let's just take a quick look at the black hats, the bad actors as they're called. So the scenario goes, a rogue state or a rogue group employ artificial intelligence to dominate others, perhaps the entire world, using this equipment in ways that are destructive and cruel. Are you entitled to hate those beings? If you can, please don't. Were such actors to come on stage, the more you hate them, the more you give away your power. People who are tempted in that direction have so little belief in their own existence that they are a state in absolute terror. And others hating them is just piling that terror on even higher. Their lives become agony to them. And the only way they know to deal with that is by creating agony for others, because it outsources, that's what it feels like, it outsources their own agony, their own terror. It doesn't work, it just adds to their terror. They need love. You may not be able to do it. Just do your best, if you can. Give love to the ones who are the most frightened, who are doing the most hurt in the world. And just do what you can, You don't have to be perfect, because you are perfect already, so you don't have to strive for perfection here. Just if you notice that there is a group, an individual, a movement that inspires fear and hatred in you, notice that. Come back to the old and tried and true technique. What are these people, what is this person showing me about myself? Because as I say, these blueprints, the state of terror, the state of enslavement, it's there in your energy field. Not because you're at fault. Maybe you've had some interesting adventures, Of course you have. You're adventurers. How would you not have interesting adventures? And maybe some of those you look back and you think, won't do that again. It's okay. But this is not fundamentally personal. It's not about you as an individual. I'm talking about the collective blueprint of humanity, which is loaded with pain of past experience. Some of it may be yours personally. Most will not. You haven't been that busy. So when people speak, when you read channelings, for example, which speak of the way in which many are watching what happens on Earth with considerable interest, one way of understanding why is that you are seeking to do here on Earth something that's quite challenging, quite interesting. It's looking to shift some very jagged energies, this would be a way of describing them, into more flowing and open patterns. And you experience those jagged energies as painful memories or painful imaginings of what might lie ahead of you in the future. But either way, always you can deal with these blueprints by being in the present. Because the pain is in the past, things you remember or feel in your energy field as merging out of the past, or they're in the world of your fears, they lie in the future. They're not here. So again we come back to the aliveness of the moment. In the moment, your choice is never binary. It's never either this or that, actually. Of course, as it emerges into expression, then you may, many times, find yourself making a choice that presents itself as binary. Shall I have a cup of tea or shall I leave it till later? Binary choice. But the aliveness, the experience of the moment, has been reduced by you, for perfectly valid reasons, ultimately, in this particular moment, to that choice, cup of tea now, cup of tea later. But what's gone behind that, that's different. That's you exploring the infinite richness of the moment, and out of that infinite richness of the moment, communicating with your personality self, your physical body, getting a sense of what is for you the most probable, enjoyable way of moving into the next moment, and generating as one simple experience of the moment, one little binary choice. But it's never the whole of the moment. It's never, never, never just a binary choice. And if you begin to believe that your mind is functioning in a binary way like a computer, you're misunderstanding your nature. Therefore, though artificial intelligence can do a lot that is very useful and way faster than your mind can, it doesn't have your aliveness. And your aliveness is way, 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 way more rich than any set of binary choices can be. Continue to know you are alive and celebrate your aliveness, and all will be well. Thank you.